What would happen to your credit score if you closed your credit cards? And what would happen to your credit scores if you just closed the accounts and credit cards that you rarely even use anyways? Would it affect your credit score in a bad way, in a positive way? What would happen? Now, I've seen a ton of situations where a lot of people want to close their accounts because one, they have annual fees and they don't even use the card enough to justify the annual fee. Two, they have a high balance and they have a really high APR, so they'd rather just close it down or transfer the balance somewhere else. And the third one is, well, I'm not really using the account, so why even keep it in the first place? That's why in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what actually happens to your credit score when you close an account, and what happens when you keep it open and you don't really use it, or what happens when you carry a balance, or what happens when you have an annual fee and you don't even use the card that much. So I'm going to answer all these questions in this one video, so make sure you stick around to the end so you can actually find out all this information. Now guys, if you don't know me, my name is TommyBryson. I'm an accountant and I've been practicing personal finance for the past 4 years. And on top of that, so far in my credit history, I've only closed one account. Literally just one account, one credit card ever. And if you want to find out which credit card that was and why, stick around to the end of the video because I actually have a surprise story to how that happened and how you can actually avoid that happening to you. Now guys, I do post videos on this channel every single day. Yes, I said every single day. So make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, hit the notification bell. So whenever I upload a video about finance, making money, credit cards, whatever is important that your schools didn't teach you, you're the first one to actually see it. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. And on top of that, guys, we have a tradition on the channel where every single time before the video starts, I ask you guys a question. And at the end of the video, you guys actually answer it. But now you answer it with all the new information that you have now. So here's the question. Why do you want to cancel your credit card? Is it the annual fee, the big balance, the big APR, or is it just that you don't really use it and you're just like, I don't really want this credit card anymore. It doesn't give me anything. It was my first one. I just want to cancel it, and you just want to know what would happen if you cancel it. Let me know in the comments down below. Why do you want to close it? The big balance. So comment down below. The big balance, the annual fee, or you just don't want to use it anymore and you want to see what happens if you cancel it. Comment down below and let me know. And at the end of the video, you respond to that comment and you tell me, well, I'm going to cancel it, or I'm not going to cancel it, and here's why. Now guys, let's get right into the video. But before the video actually starts, I do want to explain just a few things and a few tips so you guys can actually understand and have a better understanding about how this entire credit game actually works and the effects that it has on your entire life, basically. Because it's very important you guys understand all this stuff. So the first thing is this, credit score. How does it work and what are the basics to it? Now, here's the first thing. A simple explanation of what a credit score is basically, it's a score that lets people know how responsible you actually are, including banks, landlords, insurance, like all that stuff. So imagine like you being in high school, having that GPA. It lets your teachers know whether you're good or you're bad, and that's how it basically works. And when you go into college, that ACT score lets colleges know if you're smart or if you're dumb. It doesn't matter if you work 3 jobs, if you donate to charity, none of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters is your score. If you don't believe me, try to get into Harvard with a bad ACT score. It won't matter if you are just like a hard worker. None of that stuff matters. And it's not like the most accurate thing because sometimes people make mistakes. Their scores go down. They're still pretty trustworthy, but the score doesn't reflect that. Thus, they don't get really good rates, and thus they don't even get approved for certain loans that they can't afford, but the score doesn't reflect that at all. Now, the second thing is this, guys, and I really want to explain this. How is a credit score actually calculated? Because a lot of people out there, they know what a credit score is, but the only thing they care about is, oh my gosh, I want to have an 850 credit score. I want it to be perfect. That's all I really care about. And you ask them why, they say like, well, it's just what I want, But they don't really know what it's made out of. So here's how it works, right? 35% is payment history, 30% is the amount you owe, 15% is the length of history, so how long you've actually had a credit history for, and then 10% is new accounts, 10% is also the types of credit used, basically like loans, credit cards, and all that fancy stuff. So comment down below if that makes sense so far. So comment I get it for you get it, comment you don't get it for I need to make another video explaining every single aspect of this. Now, I do want to tell you a few things before I actually tell you the 2 ways your credit score can actually be impacted by you closing some accounts. So now, what I want to tell you guys is this, some do's and don'ts. Because a lot of people want to try to do certain things when it actually doesn't benefit them because they're in a rush to do things. And here's the thing, guys. The number one thing is this. Do not close all your accounts that you don't use. For example, I know a lot of people out there that say, Tommy, I don't need these old credit cards. There are like 5 of them. They don't give me any rewards. They have high APRs and I don't need them anymore. I don't even use them. So I'm just going to close all of them at once. I don't even want to deal with it. And I say, hey, Don't do that. It doesn't make sense because imagine closing 5 accounts and your credit score dips by like 30, 50, even 100 points. It doesn't make any sense to do that. So don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. And the only situation where you can possibly justify this is like, for example, if you're paying over $15,000 in annual fees or maybe $5,000 in annual fee, then I could understand why you would do that. But in reality, don't do that. It's not necessary. And you got to try to take it slow and steady, because if you do it all at once, it will reflect in a very negative way. And unless you're not planning to borrow any money for that entire year or have any type of legitimacy, then I don't really recommend you close all the accounts at once. It will affect your credit score like crazy. So disclosure alert, disclaimer alert, don't do that. Don't recommend it. Now, the second thing is this, guys. I do know a few people out there that they have high balances on credit cards. And the first thought that comes to your mind, well, tell me I'm just going to close it and that's going to be the end of it. Well, no, you just can't close an account because that will go into collections and it will affect your credit score for around 7 years. So I don't recommend that at all. But what I do recommend you actually consider is actually getting a balance transfer with 0 APR for at least like 15 months, because there are a lot of offers out there that offer this. So for example, say you owe $1,000 on a credit card and the APR is like 30%, 35%. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't pay this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm just going to cancel the card. I can't take this anymore. Well, how about you do this? If you get a new credit card with a balance transfer promotion, usually they'll give you between 12 to 15 months to pay off the entire thing with no APR whatsoever. So what I would do is this. I have a high balance, so I'll transfer that balance over to the new credit card and I'll create a plan and then make a plan to actually pay it off in those 10 to 15 months and just pay it off completely, and then boom, I paid no interest and I still have the card. No effect was done to my credit score whatsoever. Now, the last thing I want you guys not to do is basically this, right? Make sure whenever you're trying to close accounts, you don't close your oldest account, because it will affect your credit score. And not really, I'm going to explain it later on in the video, but I want to make sure you guys understand this. Imagine this, right? Your oldest credit card, that's the one that shows like basically like, hey, this is how long you had your credit history for. That's around 15% of your credit score. So you don't want to really close it down because it will affect your credit score. But I will tell you guys a little hack to actually get around that later on in the video. Now that we have that out the way and you know exactly what to do or what not to do, now I'm going to tell you the 2 ways that it can actually affect your credit score by you actually closing a card or an account. And I want to make sure you guys understand this. Now, the first thing is this. It actually shortens the overall life of your credit score history. And remember when I told you guys in the beginning of the video, like, hey, this is how the credit score is actually broken down. This is what actually goes into effect when it comes to it. Well, that's why I told you this, because, hey, your credit score history accounts for around 15% of your entire score. So here's the thing, guys. If you don't know this, here's the thing, guys. Imagine you have 1 credit card, 2 credit cards, 3 credit cards, and the oldest one you have is like 5 years old. Imagine erasing that entire history because you just closed that account. Well, it doesn't really work like that. Remember when I told you I was going to tell you like a hack to actually get around it? Well, here's the thing, guys. If you have like an old card that you've been using for a while, but it doesn't benefit you anymore, it has a high annual fee, and you want to close it, even though it's your oldest card, which I get, well, it doesn't really erase completely. So for example, this is what I mean. I want to make sure you guys understand this. When you close that older card, that entire history you have accumulated on that card stays in your credit score for around 10 years. For example, if I close my first credit card, which was the credit card that I actually used to buy this laptop, which is a Barclays credit card, if I close that account, which is over like 3-4 years old, well, it won't really matter that much because it will stay in my credit score for around 10 years. And between those 10 years, by the time like it reflects on my credit score, it won't matter because it will average out eventually, because I'll have like new credit cards, new loan accounts, like all that fancy stuff. And by the time that actually takes into effect, there's going to be way too many things that have accumulated and way too much history for that one account to have a big impact on my entire credit score. So that's how you actually get around it. But in the short term, it might affect your credit score by maybe like a few points or whatever, because you are closing an account and that does affect it. But don't worry, like the history itself is going to stay there for the next 10 years. So you're good to go on that point. So the second way it can actually affect your credit score is by increasing your credit utilization. So what this means is it's very simple. Credit utilization is basically how much money you're using versus how much money they actually gave you. So for example, if a credit card gave you $100 and you're using like 10%, then your credit utilization would be 10% because you're only using 10% and there's a whole bunch of 90% that you're not actually using. It's very simple. Anything above like 20%, credit cards and banks will get very nervous and shaky about that. So you always want to maintain it like around 20 to 10%. That's why on average, every single person out there that knows anything about credit cards is always telling you pay it off every single month, because that factor plays a big part in your credit score, because it plays around 35%. Is it 35%? Yeah, it's 35% of your credit score base. Okay, so it's a big factor of how much money you're using versus how much money they gave you. Because in reality, imagine if someone gave you like $5 and you have to use all of it. So the credit cards are like, oh my gosh, this guy needs a lot of money. So everybody gets nervous because everybody's like, oh my gosh, you know, he has a lot of debt. He's using all of it. So it might not be a good idea to lend him more money because he might default. And then everything is at risk. So that's why that's such an important factor. So for example, here's how it compares to when you close an account. So for example, if you have 5 credit cards, each of those credit cards has a credit limit of maybe $20. In total, 5 times 20 is $100. So your entire credit line is $100 in total overall over all your accounts. So what this means is, okay, you might have 20, 5 times, which is 100. But once you close one of those accounts, it means that now you only have 80 total credit lines. So whatever balance you had would be higher a credit utilization rate, because you just closed an account, and it would mean less credit. Thus, whatever you owe would now look like you owe a lot more, even though you owe the same thing. That's how it basically works. So that can actually affect your credit score by a lot, because it's one of the biggest factors, and it's around 35% of your score. But don't worry, guys. I'm not just going to tell you, oh my gosh, this was going to go wrong if you close the accounts. I'm not just going to do that, but I'm actually going to tell you the best ways and the best tips to actually close the accounts without having any negative effects on your credit score. And here it goes. Very simple ones, by the way. Not complicated. Not one bit, but it does take a little work. Now, the first tip is actually pay off your balances before you actually close that account. Now, remember when I told you guys that the credit utilization percentage actually accounts for 35%? Well, if you're going to close that account, make sure you pay off your other credit cards, because that way, when you close that account, it won't really affect your credit score that much, because, hey, all right, so you just closed that account, your overall credit line limit went down, yes, but you paid off the other balances. So in reality, your percentage still stays pretty low. And that's how you can actually avoid getting hit with a big score loss. Now, the second tip is actually this. A lot of people out there might tell me, Tommy, I can't keep this account open because there's an annual fee attached to it. I'm not even using the card enough to actually justify it. And here's the thing, guys. You can actually call whoever the provider is for the credit card and negotiate with them, and they will probably waive that fee that they're charging you every single year. You might say, Tommy, what are the chances that they will waive the fee for me? Like, who am I, okay? Here's the thing. When you ask, it shall be granted. And on average, the fun fact, 70% of the people that ask to have those fees waived, they waive it. And by the way, guys, whenever you ask for this type of stuff, if they say no the first time, make sure you call the next day at a different time, because you will get a different representative, and just try a different technique on them. And they might say yes, and they might grant it to you, because it's different people you're talking to, and you never know if somebody's going to be nice or mean. So just make sure you call over and over again. If by chance you don't get it and they don't waive the fee, what you would ask for is this. You say, well, you know, if you can't waive the fee, can you downgrade the card to one that doesn't have any annual fee attached to it? For example, if you have a Chase Sapphire and you get like downgraded to like a Chase Unlimited, there's no annual fee attached to that one. So in this case, you're actually better off, because you still have the credit card, you still have the credit line. It won't affect your credit score. And on top of that, well, you have no annual fee now. So your entire problem is 100% solved. Now, if by chance they reject your claim to either waive the fee or downgrade you, well, here's one last thing you can do. This is tip number 3, by the way. You can actually ask for your other cards to increase your credit line. Now, what this means is this. Tommy, what are you talking about? You know they're going to did my credit, right? When I asked for that, like, increase in credit. Yeah, I do know that, but it's not going to be as bad as when you close an account and your credit utilization goes up, because that plays up around 35%, okay? So I get it. I did the math, and it doesn't, like affect your credit score as bad. So here's the thing, guys. So if you ask for your credit line to actually be increased, and by the way, guys, fun fact again, guys, is that 85% of the people that actually ask for their credit line to be increased, they usually get through and they actually increase it. Now remember, guys, income plays a part in this, because if they see that you don't make enough money, like, why would they increase your credit line? It doesn't make any sense. And I'm hoping that if you're closing up some credit cards, it's because you want to get a good score and you're in good standing, you don't have any late payments, so you can use this as leverage when you're negotiating to get that credit line increase. Now, some credit cards out there, like, they automatically do that. So when you do this, guys, and you do cancel that credit card and you have like those other credit card lines like increase, well, it won't affect you because you already had those lines increase. So just by dropping that one credit line, it won't affect your credit score or whatever, because you already adjusted for it and prepared for it before it happened. Now, 2 last things before I actually tell you exactly what I think about this entire thing is that, 1, don't do this stuff that I'm telling you while you're applying for a mortgage or trying to get some insurance rates or trying to get like a loan for like a car. Don't do that stuff, guys, because your credit score will get dinged just a little bit for like short term. But in reality, that little ding might be the main thing that might keep you away from getting the lowest rate possible or might keep you away from getting a good mortgage. Okay, so make sure you're not doing this all while you're trying to get something that's very important for you and your passive income or whatever you're trying to do with your life. And here's the thing, guys, I actually recommend, if in any case you buckle down and just hold on and take that interest or take that annual fee for 1 more year while you're trying to get that loan or that mortgage, because you don't want that to actually affect your negotiations. Now, the second thing is this, guys. If you do have a very long credit history of over like maybe 7 years, like most of this stuff won't really even ding your credit score that much because you have so much history that nothing, like unless you went bankrupt, can actually hurt your credit like crazy, okay? So having a lot of history actually helps you a lot when it comes to all this stuff. So you can probably just like close an account, no problem, but don't close all of them. I don't recommend that, not one bit. But if you just close an account and you manage everything like I'm telling you right here, you'll be good. No big deal at all. And comment down below, guys, and let me know which factor are you worried about the most. Is it the credit history or is it the credit utilization? What's making you the most worried about closing an account? So now that you commented, here are my final thoughts. Sometimes you do have to close an account because either it's not benefiting you anymore, it's charging you an annual fee, and you just have to be smart about it. So if you use what I told you in this video, you should be good, like 100%, like no worries, and it won't really ding your credit score like crazy. And don't worry, like these are short-term things. So in reality, on average, it will average out eventually, so you will be good. But just don't go out there and close all your accounts like all of a sudden. That will hurt your credit like crazy. Second thing is this, guys. I promised you guys in the beginning of the video that I will tell you the one account that I actually closed and the reason I actually closed it. Now, here's the thing, guys. I actually closed my Amazon credit card, and I love that card so much because I would get 5% whenever I would buy something on Amazon. But what if I told you I was actually buying over $20,000 worth of stuff every single month because I was actually doing drop shipping? So imagine getting $20,000 in sales every single month, buying it from Amazon, and getting 5% on all those purchases every single month. That's what actually was happening to me. I was making a ton of money from cash back, okay? I was very happy about it. But basically what happened was this, guys. When drop shipping was going on, it was very cool, very nice, but in December, eBay started flagging a whole bunch of stores because they didn't want us on the website anymore. Everyone switched to Amazon, and when I canceled my subscription with eBay, they tried to charge me $1,000 just for canceling the subscription. But here's the deal, guys. They weren't fulfilling their part of the promise because basically they wouldn't promote my products anymore, and that was kind of the agreement. Like, hey, you promote the products, like it doesn't matter, just promote the products. That's cool. I'm paying the money to actually promote the products, but they weren't doing that anymore because they were flagging stores. And my store was like in perfect condition, but they didn't care about any of those factors. They were just like flagging every dropshipper out there because they wanted to kick us all out. So when that happened, they charged me the $1,000. I closed the account, I paid it off completely, and then that's why I actually closed my Amazon account. In hindsight, it kind of doesn't make any sense why I closed the accounts. But if you're wondering if I affected my credit score, in reality, it only sent me down like 4 to 5 points, but on average, that will average out like in the next year or so. So the value of that story is just be very careful. And this is something that I do all the time, guys. I never sign up for something like over a year. I don't do like yearly memberships on anything because you never know what's going to happen. I just rather pay monthly, even if it's like $1 or $2 extra, just like pay monthly because you never know what's going to happen. And if you sign up for an entire year, you might lose out on a ton of money because you never know how tricky companies are on what might actually happen. So just keep that in mind whenever you're making the deal. So guys, as always, comment down below and let me know which credit card you're actually going to close and how are you actually going to make sure your credit score doesn't really dip down by using one of the strategies. So what are you going to do? Are you going to get a balance transfer? Are you going to make sure you have a higher credit limit? What are you actually going to do to make sure your credit score doesn't go down like crazy? And guys, as always, if you like the video, go ahead and like it and let me know why you like this so I can keep making content like this that you like. And if you dislike it, and let me know in the comments down below why you dislike it so I can actually keep improving every single day. And as always, guys, make sure you subscribe. When you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so whenever I upload a video, you're the first one to actually see it. And if you want to talk to me one-on-one, uno, just DM me on Instagram at TommyBryson and we can talk through there. I'm always replying to my DMs 100%, always, okay? Great service over here. And I'll see you guys next time on the next video. Thanks for watching and peace. You've got to start at the bottom.